Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to the Baal Sulam's Matan Torah with commentary by Rebbe Abraham Mordechai Gottlieb. I'll be referring to, as always, the Rebbe Shlita. We are in section 15 at the very bottom of page 94, the header reading. Fulfilling the mitzvah of and love your fellow as yourself is the final goal of the Torah, which leads us into page 95. As a preface, we're nearing the end of the Matan Torah essay. In truth, it continues. There's an essay right after it called Arvut, or the Mutual Guarantee. And really, it's a continuation in full force, but Matan Torah still stands as being a separate entity in itself, what the Baal Sulam is summarizing here. So a lot of familiar ideas. Never hurts. In fact, very beneficial to review. The Baal HaSulam begins. Now we can understand without difficulty the words of Hillel the Nasi to the convert to the effect that the essential pivot within the Torah is, and love your fellow as yourself. And the remaining 612 mitzvot are a commentary and a preparation for this, as above in section 2. Even the mitzvah between a person and God are also included in the preparation for this commandment. The Rebbe Shita says here, both the mitzvah between a person and God and the interpersonal mitzvot have as their goal to educate us to be conscious of the other. The other can be another person or God. The goal is the same. Reading it back again inside. Even the mitzvot between a person and God are also included in the preparation for this commandment, since it is the final goal that comes out of all of the Torah and its mitzvot. As our sages said, quote, Torah and mitzvot were given only to refine Israel by means of them being the mitzvot. This is referenced in the beginning of the Baticha L'Chochmat HaKabbalah, which is a summary of the Arizal's Eitz Chaim, more specifically the commentary that the Baal Sulam wrote on the Sifrei Arizal, being the Talmud Esra Sfirot. The Baticha is a 2-volume work, and it's really a classic to the Chochmat Emet, and there's additional commentaries that we also have published here through Birkat Shalom. But there's also a English translation for the first two chapters, which is my introduction to Baticha, as translated by our friend, Rabbi Abraham Lowenthal from Tzfat. The link is in the description. Free download for several PDFs, including Inner Work and Spiritual Principles, both short and sweet books with plenty of wisdom, or nuggets of wisdom, as I like to say. So there it says in the Peticha, this quote from the Midrash Rabbah of Bereshis, chapter 44, of Torah and mitzvah were given only to refine Israel by means of them. It also includes Rabbi Hanani ben Akasha, who states that the Creator gave Klal Yisrael lots of Torah and mitzvot to give them zchut, to give them merit. And we've said in a prior class, towards the beginning of the series, on this notion that zchut, merit, is related to hizdochachut, as the Paticha illuminates. Being that the greatest zechut, the greatest merit that we can ask for is hizdochachut, is to be refined. What better reward for our inner work than to be closer to the Creator? Closeness being similarity of form, a quality of character, being more giving, loving, and compassionate. Just as He is compassionate, so are we to be, as our sages tell us. This refers to the purification of the body until it acquires a second nature defined as love of the other. The Rishita says in the comment of body That the body here refers to self love and the inborn nature of desire to receive. This is refined by the Torah mitzvot. So if you see body used in Tanakh, it's usually a code word. There's a way to interpret it, generally speaking, as being related to the will to receive, and not just the plain understanding of a goof, a body, literally. To continue, this is the singular commandment and love your fellow as yourself, which is the final goal of the Torah, at which point a person immediately merits cleaving to God. The Rebbe Shita says here, the Creator has the character of absolute love for the other. For God's only interest is to give to the created beings. Therefore, when we completely adopt the nature of loving the other, we become completely connected to the Creator. That's the law of similarity of form, or equivalence of form. If we are like Him in character, then we're connected to Him. The Baal Sulam continues. And there's no difficulty regarding why he didn't define this with the verse, quote, and you will love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. From Devarim, or Deuteronomy 6:5. For this is due to the reason given above, that with respect to a person who still has his or her original created nature, the Rishita clarifying that is a person who still has the nature of desiring to receive pleasure and joy for self-benefit, there really is no difference at all between the love of God and the love of a fellow person, as anything outside of oneself is considered non-existent. What does this mean? The Rabbi Shita says, the only reality that I know is the reality of myself. For I sense a continual demand to satisfy my self-love. Therefore, anything outside myself is significant only to the extent that I can exploit it for my own benefit. And otherwise, it has no reality at all. For this reason, Baal HaSulam states that there was no difference between the love of God and the love of people. Where the other is another person or God, the other is outside me and therefore insignificant, because we are the center of the universe. There is a holy root to that. There is such thing as holy pride, holy confidence, and holy self-love. And it's all rooted in our relationship and service of the Creator. When we, for example, say in the morning, thank God for not making me a woman, we're not saying that because being a woman is somehow debased, God forbid. What we're saying is, thank you for making me a man and therefore giving me more mitzvot. Because women are not obligated in time-bound mitzvahs due to the way their life goes, raising a Jewish home and taking care of children, so on and so forth. There are exceptions, but generally speaking, men are obligated in those time-bound mitzvahs. For example, praying, which has to be done at certain periods of the day. As well as other ideas like, thank you for not making me a non-Jew. Shelo Yisani Goy. It's not that a non-Jew is intrinsically worse, God forbid. What we're saying is that as a Jew, we have more mitzvot. So we have more opportunity to serve the Creator and to achieve a happiness in life from such a service. Of course, there's the inner understanding, being the Jew and the non-Jew are all within us. These are just aspects of our being. But someone born Jewish or was converted to Judaism does have, from our understanding via the Kabbalists, a stronger or more awakened inner point of their heart. The Yehudi that is in the center of their being is more pronounced because they're nourishing that center point with Torah and mitzvot. And slowly but surely it becomes more unveiled. To continue. And the convert asked Hillel the Nasi to explain to him the desired end of the Torah in a way that his goal would be near and he would not have to walk a long way. As he said, quote, "Teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one leg." The Rabbi Shita says the convert asked Hillel to explain to him briefly the essential principle of the Torah and mitzvot. Therefore, Hillel defined it for him in terms of loving his fellow man, as its goal is near and is quick to be revealed, as stated above in section 14. For it is protected from errors, and there are others who will make demands. I think this is a good time to go back to section 2 and reference the story with Hillel and the potential convert. I'm zooming back into page 57, bottom paragraph. Regarding the converts saying, quote, "Teach me all of the Torah while I stand on one leg," there are many meanings. The simple meaning, teach me briefly the essential principle of the Torah. But there are other meanings. Human beings walk on two legs. One leg is called afflictions, and the other leg is called pleasure. For afflictions push us away from one state to the next, and pleasures pull us toward them. For example, if I'm in pain, I want to make a change. Maybe I'm in so much pain, I want to, let's say, take a pain reliever, or I want to go to sleep. Just get it over with. The pleasure, let's say, materiality. I want a new home, a new car. The pleasure of that future reality is pulling me forward and moving me to achieve my desire. So I work for it, so on and so forth. The ultimate desire, of course, being Dveikus, cleaving to the Creator as one. That's the ultimate pleasure that should pull us forward when we really contemplate it and connect to it anyway. And it can also pain us to realize how far we are. But that's a holy pain. That's a holy sadness, a holy suffering. That's the type of feeling that builds the vessels, the kelim, in order to receive the light. And going through the ebbs and flows of inner work, which is constantly the process of becoming illuminated and feeling the sweetness of all that one does. And then in time of darkness, where it's very difficult to feel as such, and generally you feel nothing. And that's the time that you can actually do the real work and employ Emunah and say, whatever I'm feeling, whatever it is, this is what he wants from me, this is the portion he's giving me. It's not just the best for me, it is the best thing at this moment. Thus, the concept of walking is a physical illustration of the abstract concept of transition from one state to another. In general, our development is dependent on our ability to operate with two opposite forces, but the convert, in accord with his nature as a novice, requests Hillel to teach only one side of and love your fellow as yourself. The more natural side. That's the idea of one leg. And this is the leg of afflictions, namely, whatever afflicts you, don't do to your fellow, which is related to Arvut, the mutual guarantee, which is the following essay after Matan Torah. We'll touch on it more inside the text, but in short, we're all in the same boat, so don't shoot the bottom. The biggest way to shoot the bottom of the boat and to stab the heavens, so to speak, is Lashon Hara, evil speech. speaking ill of others, even ill of oneself and one's past. There's a lot of details actually to the laws of Lashon Hara, and I highly recommend anyone and everyone to study them. Jew and non Jew, they're universal principles of basic ethics that have to do with our relationship with each other and how we speak about the other, or hopefully not speaking about the other, ideally. And the Kabbalists say, read in the Rebbe Shlita's words, that our exile, understandably so, as the Chafetz Chaim so clearly designated to us why we're still in exile, is from Lashon Hara. But it manifests in so many ways, in so many deep forms too. For example, in Hebrew, there's a notion of Ein li koach, I don't have strength. But it's used as a passing phrase, meaning someone asks you for a favor, they need your help, meaning the Creator has sent them as a messenger to provide you the opportunity to do a mitzvah in that moment. And maybe you are super tired. Who knows what type of variables go on? We have such complicated lives. But to say, Ein li koach, I can't help you, I have no strength, according to the Rebbe Shita, is Lashon Hara against Hashem. It's Lashon Hara against the Creator. So what you're saying in essence is, this is not important for me. Of course you have strength. You can get up and do another thing. To contemplate the power and the potential of a human being and what we're actually capable of when we're pushed to the brink, let alone just another iota forward. It's mind-boggling how much power the Creator really bestowed upon us. And He bestows us all our powers. To say that I don't have strength is saying, not only is this not important enough for me to be enlivened by the opportunity to help, but also that the Creator is somehow unable, God forbid, to give me the strength, as if He's not capable of something. It's a lot to be said on this topic, but I just wanted to mention it because it's so, so important. Whenever we learn certain ideas, certain concepts, we're enveloped from the realm and the consciousness of that idea. Understandably so, if we're learning the laws of Shabbos, we'll be more attuned and aware of all the potential things that we can do wrong or do correct on Shabbos. So when we learn the laws of Lashon Hara, we actually know what's right and what's wrong in terms of speech. And we'll be able to guard ourselves more so, and have some Yirat Shamayim, some fear of heaven, hopefully, God willing. Because it really is very, very difficult to dodge and to not fall in that regard. And even the greatest sages say, relatively speaking, everyone speaks evil speech, Lashon Hara, at varying degrees, of course, everyone at their level. And that's not to give anyone, God forbid, a heter, permissibility to do so. No, we should really do our best to protect our speech, because we create realities. And we can, so to speak, stab the heavens and cause major damage to this collective system of this one boat that we're all sailing on. So, back to our section, bottom of page 96, comment 80 from the Rebbe Shlita, for the end of the Baal Sulam's paragraph here. Again, Baal Sulam ends the paragraph, for it's protected from errors, and there are others who will make demands. Meaning the goal of loving the other, and how this goal is near and quick to be revealed. So the Rebbe Shita says here, our spiritual work is to educate ourselves to acknowledge the reality of the other. And it doesn't matter whether it's another person or God. However, Hillel wanted to shorten the spiritual journey of the convert. And therefore he told them to love other people, for this way is better suited to educate us. Meaning to say, if we interpret that example, which is back in section 2, or you can listen to the second lesson in the series to learn more, that all of the Torah can be interpreted in an inner form for the individual. Torah de Rishut HaYachid, a personal domain. So the Hillel is our inner point in the heart, the inner Jew. And the convert is the inner aspects of our will to receive, which we have 70 aspects of. So what I think the Rebbe Shita here is saying is, understandably so, the most conducive thing to convert our egoistic desires and turn them into altruistic ones is to actively be in the process of loving the other. The Baal Shalom, of course, saying that loving the other needs to be actualized by giving to the other. I can sit back and love someone and not do anything. I have to really put it into action. The reason for this is that other people are more concrete than God. We can look within ourselves and reflect whether we really love a certain person, and it's very difficult for an honest person to deceive himself or herself about this. But regarding the Creator, not only is he not concrete, even his demands are not being expressed to us at the present moment, and therefore are not concrete. Since there is no concrete sign that could disprove it, we can just imagine that we love the Creator. The demands of other people change daily. Each time they vibrate our nerves with a different tone, with a differing degree of force. So there is a daily test of our relationship to other people, full of snares and full of struggles. By contrast, the demands of the Creator are fixed. For example, we are told to pray 3 times a day, and so the prayer becomes a routine, and the average person cannot breathe any life into it, or into any of the other routine mitzvot between a person and God. So these mitzvot don't continually test us and bring us to move against our nature. For these reasons, and love your fellow as yourself is preferable to and love the Lord your God. In short, we get feedback from people. We can engage them. Either ask them or just even see their body language, see their tone, let alone the words they speak. As stated, we don't get a call from the Creator after we're done with our morning prayer service saying, great job, or you're really lacking here. We can do our best to make that accounting ourselves. We should try. But that's why love your fellows yourself is more preferable. In summary, Hillel and Rabbi Kiva defined and love your fellows yourself as the goal, because other people make clear demands that we cannot deceive ourselves regarding this. But the truth is that loving other people is a means to learn to love the Creator and not the end goal. Love your fellows yourself is just a means to coming to loving the Creator. But one can also interpret that love your fellow as yourself also includes the Creator. Because your fellow, relative to what we've been learning here, is anything outside of oneself. And that is people and the Creator. So to see that and feel that practically, to see the divinity within each person, to actually do our best to extract and see the goodness in others, that's how we can tap into our love of the Creator, because we are finding the love of them, we're finding the Creator within them, the holy spark within each and every human being on this earth. It's not the Shem. God willing, we should be able to look at each other with a good heart and a good eye, judge each other favorably, so that we can come to higher desired states of consciousness, of love and giving. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, or Breslov, that's more commonly translated, says in Lakuti Moran that if we were to judge a wicked person favorably, meaning even though we know they're not right in their actions, if we do our best to see the positive within them, we can actually tip the scale for them and give them enough merit that would, in essence, in my words, cause a butterfly effect, a domino effect that would give them the capacity to realign with the Creator, to do tshuva, to return to their inner being, to their inner essence, and take on the yoke of Torah and mitzvot, as opposed to the opposite. Beautiful idea, and very powerful. So you can imagine if we have the power with positive thinking and positive judgment and seeing the best in others to help shift a wicked person to the side of merit, which would eventually bring them to righteousness, how much more so is the negativity and the destruction that we bring with our evil speech and our lashon hara. Tov. Until next time, we've got one lesson left for Matan Torah, but then we're going to go right into the mutual guarantee. Haven't decided yet if it's just going to be a continuation of this class, like it's going to be Shir 20 and then Arvut is going to be 21, or if it's going to be a separate class altogether. Not sure. We'll see. In truth, they're intimately connected, but they can be separate entities in themselves. Hence why they're separate. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for keeping up with the series. Please tell your loved ones, family, friends, anyone you think who this would be conducive to. It's a big mitzvah. All the best.